Hello class, back for the second activity in lesson 4 of unit 7. All right, comparing points on a line, on a number line. Okay, so we're going to use each of the following terms at least once to describe or compare the values of points M, N, P, R. Here they are, M, N, P, R. Notice the only number that we have on the number line is 0. Okay, so you're going to see shortly that there are a lot of different possibilities for what the values of everything else can be. But the 0 being placed where it is does tell us some important information. All right, so the first thing is greater than. We want to see, give examples of values or points that are greater than another value or point on the number line. And so there's a lot of different options here that you can do this. What you're going to do is you're going to pick any point and find something that it is to the right of, and that means it is greater than that. So lots of possibilities here. One would be N is greater than M. Okay, now we also know other details about N and M, right? We know that they're both negative, okay, but we know that N is greater than M. That's something else we know. I can put a little semicolon, and let's give one more example of something that's greater. We know that P is greater than N. I'll make P capitalized since it's capitalized here. So we can use that symbol. We can also use the actual terms, right? We can say N is greater than M, and P is greater than N. Okay, so less than. Well, that's kind of be the same idea, except we're going to be looking for values that are to the left of other values. So, for instance, M is going to be less than any of the other points that have letters with them, right? It'll be bigger than these points, but anything to the right of here is going to be bigger than M, which means M is going to be less than those. So we can say M is less than N. Okay, we can also say M is less than P. All right, so M is actually less than any of those other letters here. We can also say that P is less than R. Even though P is way out there, P is the third largest of the points here that have a letter with them. It's still less than R because it's to the left of R. All right, opposite of, or opposites. Okay, remember those are numbers that are the same distance from 0 on the number line. Okay, so let's see, if I look at N, it's 1, 2 spots away. Well, there's nothing 2 spots away from N. So N's not going to have an opposite. Let's look at M. M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots away. How many is P? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. So that means that M and P are opposites. So let's go ahead and fill that in here. We can say M and P are opposites. All right, and then for the negative number, we've kind of already mentioned this before, right? N is a negative number. So is M. Okay, but these are not because these are to the right of 0. All right, for number 2, tell what the value of each point would be if P is 2.5. Well, okay, this is what I was getting at earlier when I was saying that we don't automatically know the value of these letters here. You might look at N and think it's at -2, but not necessarily because we can give a different value to each tick mark. So if P is 2.5, we can fill that in here. We can say, I'm going to actually use the marker. If it's 2.5, let's think about what this also means. 2.5 is also what? 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. It's 5 halves. So we have that on our mind, and let's look and see how many marks away from 0 is 2.5. Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's going to be it because this is the same thing as 5 halves. So if it's 5 marks away, each mark must be worth 1/2. So if each is worth 1/2, that means this is 2.5. This is going to be 2.5 and another half. That's 3. And then 3 and another half is 3.5. And then 3.5 and another half, that's 4. That means this has to be 4. Going back this direction again, each tick mark is a half, so this would be negative a half, or negative 0.5, and this would have to be negative 1. Okay, and then counting half again, negative 1.5, negative 2, negative 2.5. You could have also known that m was going to be at negative 2.5 because we already said that m and p are opposites. So once we knew that p was 2.5, m had to be negative 2.5. You could have thought of that in that way as well. All right, so let's look at n. If n is negative 0.4, okay, n cannot be anything positive. So I said we can make up different values for these, but anything to the left of 0 cannot be positive. Okay, otherwise everything else is fair game as long as it's negative. So in this case, they say let's imagine n is negative 0.4. Well, if n is negative 0.4, we need to account for how many tick marks there are in between that and our landmark of 0. Well, 1, 2. Okay, so that means this is going to be halfway in between 0 and negative 0.4. I know it can be a little bit tricky, but halfway in between 0 and negative 0.4 is going to be negative 0.2. So that means that each of the tick marks in this case is 0.2 or 2/10. All right, so if we're going to count that way, then we can come back here. We can say, okay, this is negative 0.6, negative 0.8, and this would be negative 1, right? Negative 1.0. So let's go ahead and let's call this negative 1 or negative 1.0. And let's go ahead and use the reminder of what we knew before. If we know that m and p are opposites, if m is negative 1, that means p has to be positive 1. Okay, and now this is where it might definitely look tricky to you because you're thinking, wait, look at how many tick marks there are, and we're calling this 1? But if we say that each one is worth 2/10, then let's see how that works here. We're 0, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1.0. So that's how that works. All right, and then so again, if each one is 0.2, this is going to be 1.2, 1.4, and r would have to be 1.6. 1.6. All right, so that is for that. Let's then look and see if r is 200. Okay, r is 200 in this case, so we need to see what, again, the value of each of the tick marks is in that case. How many tick marks are there between r and 0? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8. So if each mark is, there's 8 marks, and that gets us to 200, then we need to find 200 and divide that by 8. And so if you're not sure what that is, let's go ahead and work on our division. So 200 divided by 8. So 8 can't go into 2, but it can go into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. 20 take away 16 is 4. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. So that means that each mark has to be worth 25. So we keep that in mind. If each one's worth 25, when we're counting by 25. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So this is 200. This is going to be 25 fewer. It's going to be 175, 150. This has to be 125. 125. Okay, and then from 0, it's going to be easier just to start from there. We know that each tick mark in this case is worth 25. So this has to be negative 25, and this has to be negative 50. Okay, again, when you're talking about 25s, you can think about them as quarters. All right, so 25 cents, 50 cents. This is negative 50 in this case, or you would owe 50 cents, you could say. And then for m, this is negative 50, negative 75, negative 100, negative 125. Negative 125. Okay, so you can see how if we have no other numbers on the number line except for 0, then we can assign all kinds of different amounts to one of the points, and then that's going to affect what everything else is on the number line. All right, last one to go. M is negative 15. So let's play around with that. Let's see what we get here. Negative 15 is m. Well, let's see how many tick marks there are between m and 0. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we were to divide 15 5 ways, that means each mark is worth 3. Okay, so negative 15. Now as we count up, since we're going to the right, we're going to be counting up by 3s. This is going to be a little bit tricky. From negative 15 up 3 is negative 12. Up 3 more is negative 9. And then up 3 more is negative 6. So this would be negative 6. I know this is going to be tricky for many of you. But let's continue in that direction just to see how it works here. If each one's worth 3, this is negative 6. If we count 3 more up, this is negative 3. And then 3 more up from there takes us to 0. All right, so this would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And again, you could have remembered that m and p were opposites and gotten 15 that way as well. And so this would have to be 18, 21, and 24 for R. Okay, that will wrap it up.